Classity class.
Yes.
So we have somebody that's absent this week that y'all can say that you miss. So say, we miss you. We hope you're back soon.
We miss you. We hope you're back soon, big boy.
Okay. So we miss you, obviously. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. So today we already took our pop quiz on dividing fractions and graphing inequalities. And then you were asked to complete the bell work that you already had in your packet from yesterday. And we were learning about bots and whisker plots yesterday. And I asked y'all to finish this extra practice for bell work today. And then we will go over homework. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. I am going to write big over here. And then if you can't see when I start writing here, let me know and I'll zoom in. Get it? Got it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I know it's Friday. Get it together. Get it? Got it?
Good.
All right. So we first started off with putting this from least to greatest. And we need to find what first? The what?
The median.
Median. And do not rush on this. Take your time because you can forget to match up certain numbers or you can match up more than one number. Now, so our Q2 is standing for quartile 2 is 23, and that is also called our Q2 is also called our median. Now, we have an exact middle. So it perfectly splits it into a lower and upper half. Looking at my lower half, we have a perfect middle again. We have a perfect middle again. And that perfect middle is 11, and it's going to be quartile 1, or the lower quartile. And then if we look to the right, our upper half, we find our upper quartile. And what will it be? Which 32?
The first one.
And we label it quartile 3. So what we have done is we found out our Q1, Q2, and our Q3. And I want you to represent the minimum and maximum with dots because that's lining up with bots and whisker. So when you're working it out quickly, you can do it just like this on paper. But a true bots and whisker plot is worked out on a number line. And I said that I would do this part with you when it's on the number line, okay? So at this time, I am going to zoom in. But where am I getting all my answers from? On the right side. If you can't see it when I zoom in, it's because I'm getting my answers on the right side. So let's look at this left side of our paper. Looking over at the right, what was our minimum? Loud and proud. 8. And then looking over at the right, our maximum is the other dot on the right side.
39.
And then if we look at our first vertical line, that's labeled Q1. What number was that?
11.
And then Q2.
23.
And then Q3.
32.
And then all we have to do is do those same exact things that we did on the right side, but perfectly line it up on the number line, okay? So my dots I'm going to go ahead and put on 8 and 39. So this is the middle, so 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to put my dot. I do.
What do you do?
And then 39 is right before 40, so I'm going to put my dot. Now I have my minimum and I have my maximum. Q1 is on 11, so that will be my first vertical line. 23 is going to be my Q2. That's my second vertical line. Q3 is 32. That's my third vertical line. So from quartile 1 to quartile 3 is my box. And then I need to attach my minimum whisker and my maximum whisker. Get it? Got it?
Good.
Don't look at the bots. Look at the whiskers. Is the right side longer or is the left side longer?
Right
Right, so it's skewed or tailed going to the right. That's our lesson on Tuesday. That's it. Okay, so back to it. I'm zooming back out so we can see what we need to do. Solving number 2. Solving number 2. Let's get after it. Y'all gonna tell me what's from least to greatest, or am I gonna have to wait
42,
patiently?
44, 51,
46,
It's okay, you're still cool. 42,
44,
46,
51,
okay,
58,
okay,
60,
okay,
67, 69, 72.
Thank you for waiting patiently.
It sounds like bingo. Whatever
You're
whatever y'all
welcome.
were saying.
I know it.
I showed us. You didn't work out the 72 and the 69.
It's all right. It's okay. Started. So now we have our data from least to greatest, and remember to mark it out as you go to help you keep up with it. Now we can easily see what our minimum and maximum is. So if you like to just go ahead and put those dots, you can. But remember, we first have to identify quartile.
1,
2. Good job. You're still cool. And it's going to be the what? What's quartile 2 called?
Median.
Median. Well, we get lucky again. We have a perfect quartile 2. And again, that was number 58. Then we find out the lower half is an even amount of numbers. So when there's an even amount of numbers, there's 4 numbers on the left and 4 numbers on the right.
We're going to have to add 2 numbers and then divide them by 2.
44 plus 46 is where we need to find our median. So 44 plus 46 divided by 2.
45.
45. All right, and then if I look at my upper half, those 4 numbers are even amount. What's in between 67 and 69?
68.
So that's quartile 3 is going to be 68. So we already have our minimum and maximum. We can match our whiskers, and don't forget to draw your box. Now, does it correctly represent the size of the box and whisker plot when we draw it like this? No. How you represent the box is when it's actually, and the whiskers is when it's actually on the what? Number line. But you can do this quickly to be able to find out what's your Q1, your Q2, your Q3, and your minimum and maximum. So, because if I keep on drawing these out like I am on the right side, that's just a quick way to get your answers for those. But it makes it look like all the whiskers are the same length. And we found out on this left side, if we look at our top box and whiskers, we find out, are the whiskers the same length when we actually do it on a number line? No. Okay, so let's find out what this one's going to look like, okay? So my minimum is 42. My maximum is 72. And then my Q1 is 45. My Q2 is 58. My Q3 is
68.
Can y'all all still see okay? Okay, so be careful when you're putting this data on the number line. 40, 41, 42 would be my minimum. My maximum is 72. So I'm making sure I'm putting it on the correct tick mark. My first vertical line is quartile 1 will be on 45. My second vertical line for quartile 2 will be on 58. And my third vertical line will be on 68. And just by looking at this, the whiskers look about the same length. So my estimate is that this data is not going to have a longer tail, a longer whisker. My estimate, you hear me saying my estimate, it's not exact, it's a what? Estimate. I'm inferring that my data would be symmetrical, and that's what we learn on Tuesday is using, is it symmetrical or is it skewed, okay? So that's just a preview on Tuesday. Does Tuesday's lesson sound hard? No, okay? So when I'm looking at number 3, my data needs to be put from least to greatest. All right, and it.
62,
Mm-hmm.
67,
Yep.
68,
Yep.
73,
Okay.
77, 79, 79, 80, 84, 86, 94, 95, 100.
Now, since I wasn't doing that and I'm going by y'all, I'm at least going to check to see if I have the same amount of numbers in the first group and my group that I wrote, okay? So there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I think y'all did put them from least to greatest correctly. Got it? Okay, so now I need to find my median. And when I'm finding my median, I need to be very careful, especially with a big group of numbers. And I find out I do not have an exact median. My exact median is in between 79 and 80, and when I add those together and divide by 2, I get 79.5, and again, that's going to be quartile 2. Now remember, if you do not have an exact median, 79 is still in your first group, and 80 is still in your what? Second group. So do not forget about 79 and 80 because were they our median? No. So if you forgot about that, you need to be putting a star by this problem because this is the hardest it will get creating box and whisker plots and identifying Q1, Q2, and Q3, okay? And the reason why it's the hardest is because we do not have exact medians. We have to go find it. So my first group, everybody put your finger on your data set. Your first group should have 62, 67, 68, 73, and 77, and 79. So there's 6 numbers in that first group. So that means your middle will be in between 68 and 73. So please make sure you added that up and divide by 2 correctly. Okay, so this is the hardest it gets because we did not have exact medians in any of the times that we had to find it in any of the quartiles. So quartile 1, what's my answer going to be?
7.5.
And then again, my upper quartile is 80, 84, 86, 94, 95, and 100. So it's in between 86 and 94. And I might be wrong, but I think off the top of my head that might be 90.
Yep.
Okay. So now I'm going to take the time to just do an estimate of what my box and whisker plot will be looking like. It does not exactly look like this because it's not on a what? A number line. We got to go put it on there, okay? But it's helping me imagine what it will look like on a number line, where they'll be located on a number line, okay? So my dots I'm going to go ahead and put after I list all of the plots. So my minimum is 62, my maximum is 100, Q1 is 70.5, Q2 is 79.5, Q3 is 90. Now I am going to zoom in on these, and the reason why I'm going to zoom in here is because you need to make sure you see, because there's 0.5s, they're in between 2 whole numbers, okay? So they shouldn't be exactly on a what? Number. So I'm zooming in really big here. My minimum is a whole number and it's on 62. My maximum is 100 and it's a whole number. So I'm good there. So my dots are perfectly on 62 and 100. Okay? They're lined up with that tick mark. Q1 is 70.5. So it needs to be in between 70 and 71. Okay? So do you see how it's not on 70's tick mark and it's not on 71's tick mark? It's in between. Same thing as Q2, that second vertical line needs to be in between 79 and 80. And then Q3, we have nothing to worry about because it exactly needs to be on what? 90. So I have my box and then I have my whiskers. Okay, so that was our bell work. Quickly get out your homework. If you did not have enough time to copy this down, remember you can always ask it to borrow it at the end of class, okay? Because I know some of us had to go do something. All right, so anytime you have a data set, even if it's a type of measure that you don't have to put at least to greatest, what are you gonna do? Put at least to greatest. And I'm gonna tell you, you do not have to put at least to greatest, but you're going to every single time, because the one time you forget to do it is when it's gonna ask for median. And you'll make that simple mistake like we did on our bell work yesterday for some of us. You remember how some of us said our median was 18? It was because we forgot to put it from least to greatest, okay? So just go ahead and do it. Yes, it's an extra step. It's not going to take you too much of your time. It benefits in the end, okay? Now, please double check that I did it because I'm talking while I'm doing this. So please make sure I did it correctly. Okay, thank you. So when I'm doing this, I added it up and I need to divide by what for my mean? When I add it up, okay, so 12 plus 12 plus 15 plus 24 plus 31 plus 38 divided by 6 equals
16.16 repeated.
all right, do it again. You're still cool? Get that calculator out. Everybody, add those up and divide by 6.
Divide by 6.
How many numbers is it?
Oh.
What does mean mean?
I thought we were going to divide by the number.
That's, well, we're not finding the median.
22.
You see why we got to pay attention. 12 plus 12 plus 15 plus 24 plus 31 plus 38 divided by 6. We add all our numbers up and divide by the amount. We divide by 6 and we get 22. Now, median, you find the mean when there's two numbers in the middle. Do we have two numbers in the middle here? Yes. Now we find the mean because the mean tells you the exact middle of two what? Numbers. So that's why we got to go 15 plus 24 divided by 2. But when we're finding the mean over here of the data set, do we always divide by 2? No, we divide by the amount of numbers. So again, this is why we had homework and why we're going over it. So 15 plus 24 divided by 2, you should get 19.5. Did everybody get that? Okay. Mode is most frequent. What's the most frequent number?
12.
Range is 38 minus 12. And I get 26. All right. My next one, if you did not do it correctly, recognizing mean from the first one, you probably didn't do it for the second one. So you can go ahead and start adding those numbers. You should already have it from least to greatest. You can check mine since, ooh,
You forgot a 16.
it's not 18, is it?
You're still cool.
That's a 6, okay? This is not an 8. It looks like I'm going to just do this. Okay. 16, 28, 29, 32, 35, and 30. 48. Woo. See what happens when I start talking?
You're still cool.
Oh, thank you. All right. So now you add those numbers up and divide by 10. 21.9. My median, do I have an exact median? No, I have two of them, 16 and 28. I add those up and divide by 2 because I'm adding how many numbers? 2. So 16 plus 28 divided by 2, and I get
22.
And my mode, what's the most frequent number? 5. And my range,
48. 43.
48 minus 5 is 43. All right. So that is our homework from last night. Now coming around now is, so while we're getting our work passed out, will you hand me one, please? Thank you. While you're getting your work passed out, you can look up on the board to see what's upcoming next week. Remember today we had Mission 7 due. I'm putting that grade in on Monday. Mission 7's grade is going in on what day? Monday. Next week pop quiz is going to be on mean, median, mode, and range. I did forget to tell y'all to write something on the back of your homework. What I need you to write on the back of your homework, what are the measures of center? You will be asked to list those on your pop quiz next week. What are the measures of variability?
Range and interquartile range.
Okay, so you need to make sure you have those listed and you know those to be able to list those for your pop quiz next week. And also your pop quiz is going to be asked to find mean, median, mode, and range. Got it? Okay. It's on there.
Can you give me a second? I'm still writing.
Okay. Don't forget, you also need to be studying your geometry formulas. You also need to be studying your geometry formulas. So this is the best part about box and whisker plots. We're literally going to be able to solve this all in 2 minutes. You ready? What quartile is the median called?
Quartile 2.
Quartile 2, the second. Q2. We can say second or we can just say Q2, right? Now, looking up there, remember Q2 is that middle line in the box. What number is that middle line? 18. That lower quartile is called Q1. And what is that number on? What is that quartile 1 on? 13. The upper quartile, Q3. And that vertical line, the end of the box, is on what number?
21.
What's my minimum?
10.
Maximum.
27.
And my range is taking that minimum and that maximum, 27 and 10, and what? Subtracting, finding the
17.
difference, right? Finding 17, finding that spread. Now, what is interquartile range? What is that going to be? Q3, we already know, is 21, minus Q1, which is 13. So we're taking the end of the box and the beginning of the box and subtracting, finding the difference, finding the spread. And what do we find out our answer is?
8.
It's what?
8.
8. That's how you will be expected to do it on a test. That's how you're expected to do box and whisker plots on a what? Test. That's why everybody loves box and whisker plots, because you can easily see quartile 1, quartile 2, and quartile 3. But you still have to know how to find interquartile range, the Q1, the Q2, and Q3 with a normal data set, okay? So you still have to know how to do it, but it's great when we get box and whisker plots, okay? So now, we already know the quartile for median is Q2. What's my Q2 going to be? Loud and proud.
9.
Lower quartile is called Q1. And what's that beginning of the box number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. And that upper quartile is called Q3. And that Q3 is going to be
14.
my minimum. It's going to be 3. My maximum is going to be
17.
And now I know all the data to be able to find the range and interquartile range. My range, 17 minus 3.
14.
And my interquartile range will be 14 minus 7. And I get
7.
So that's just practice, super fast practice with box and whisker plots. You will see something like this again, okay? Next week on a bell work. That's the best thing about box and whiskers. Now, we are going to be learning the last 2 data displays. Your first data display was a box and whisker plot. Our last data displays are histograms and line plots. So a histogram is going to be that second graph that we learn. And you already know what it's called. You just see the fancy name right now. Histograms is a fancy name for a bar graph. Bless you. If you look down here at number 2, that's your bar graph. You've seen those before. You learned about bar graphs in 2nd grade. So if it says bar graph or histogram, they mean the same thing. And we're not spending a lot of time on this because you already know how to read a bar graph. Okay? Now, we are going to quickly write these notes. A special type of bar graph used to show the distribution of data using equal, now in 2nd grade they use the word sections, equal groups. I can, thank you for asking. So, but now that we're done with 2nd grade, obviously, we're in 6th grade, we need to use a bigger word. So instead of saying equal groups or equal sections, we're going to say equal intervals. And you hear intervals with time, with numbers, okay? So in a histogram, there are no spaces. And I'll tell you what that means in just a second. That data is going to be continuous. And then when we make these graphs and when we make these histograms, the data needs to be divided into intervals. And remember, intervals means sections. I couldn't say intervals this morning for some reason. Each interval should have the same number of values in it. And then each bar in a histogram shows the frequency. And in a histogram, the bars must be the same width. Now, I know that sounds like a whole bunch of hoopla, but I'm going to make it make sense once we get down to the bottom. Does that sound good? And literally, the steps are literally copying what we wrote above. We're going to create some intervals. We're going to sort the data into intervals. And remember, another word for intervals are sections. And mark the axis. Now, this is the correct spelling for axis because it's more than 1. Usually we spell axis, A-X-I-S, when we're doing X and Y because we're separating those out into one X and then one Y. But I'm talking about 2 things here, so it's plural, so it's A-X-E-S. Get it? Got it? So now draw bars is what would be next. And we will make sure the bars touch and have the same width. Now this is math class, not art class. So we're going to try to draw these the best way that we can. But we are still going to try to be fast and efficient. So just try to be as neat as you can. Now, if you have already seen this on Zern, you already know what we're about to do. I need to find how many numbers range from 0 to 4. How many numbers range from 0 to 4? So there's 1 here, 2 here, 3, and I don't think there's any more numbers in this table that is 0 to 4. How many numbers were 0 to 4? 5 to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them. 10 through 14. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. 6. And obviously the rest of them are going to be my last category. And how many of those is it? 7. So literally I'm taking my table like we've always done since 2nd grade, and I'm just going to put it on the graph. My title should be listed here, but because of time reasons we're going to just draw an arrow saying that's where we would write the title. Because are you going to be asked to create this on the state test? No, you're going to be asked to read it. Okay, so looking at this one, my first group is 0 to 4. And how many am I going to have on 0 to 4? 3. So I'm literally going to draw 1, 2, 3 and create a bar and then color it in. Not spending a lot of time on this. Get it? Got it? My next group is not 0 to 4. What's my next group going to be?
5, 9.
So I just literally write it there. We're not checking the time right now. You should be doing your work that you're not doing. You're not even on the correct page. Looking at 5 to 9, where am I going to go? If you can check the time while we're doing this, then you could definitely be doing the work. That tells me you're focused on something other than math. My next category is going to be not 5 to 9. What's it going to be? And it's going to go up to
6.
and then my last group is going to be 15 to 19, and it's going to go up to 7. Now I extended my graph out because I kind of wrote big, so my groups could look the same size and the width. Okay, because remember this is math class, not art class, and I'm doing the best that I can here. One thing I do want to list out, what could have made it easier on my counting up? What could I have wrote on the side? Number starting at 0 and then it goes all the way up to 8. Okay, so now would we all count by 1? No. And now if you glance at this graph, we're not doing it, but do you see how there's a bunch of numbers here? Right there, we might not have had enough if we did this one to go all the way to counting by ones. We would have had to say each section is worth how much? 2. Or we could have said worth 5 or 10 or 100. Okay, so it just matters on what kind of graph we're talking about and how many of minutes is spent on homework or how many people is spending that. It just matters on what's the scenario. So let's look at this scenario, and this is what you'll be expected to do. Okay, so looking at 2, how many students have 0 to 1 siblings? So go find that category down at the bottom of our graph, and the numbers on that left side is saying how many people have 0 to 1 siblings. So it's in between 40 and 50. 45 students have 0 to 1 siblings. Then I look, how many students have more than 3 siblings? I want you to underline more than 3, and I want you to write at least 3, because those two terms mean the same thing. More than 3 and at least 3. You will see that there on a question. They will ask it like that, and some of you have seen it on Zern, and that's how some of us have gotten confused. So I need to be looking at more than 3. So I'm looking at 3 and above 3, right? Okay, so when I'm looking at, well, more than 3, it doesn't include 3. So mark that out. Y'all tell me I'm still what?
Cool. You're still cool.
All right, so we'll talk about one that might list later on. Get it, got it? And we'll see that definitely on Monday. Get it, got it? Good. All right, so how many students have more than 3 means it has to be in the 4 and 5 section. So how many is in the 4 and 5?
10.
And how many is in the 6 and 7?
5.
So what do I need to do with those?
Add those. Get 15.
And we get 15 students. Now, how many students have between 0 and 3? So this one is 45. This one is 30. What do I need to do with that? And I get 75 students. Now, with this histogram, can you see how many people there are? And like how many siblings they would exactly have? Can we actually see like a perfect number every single time? No. And we learned that yesterday with box and whisker plots. The only thing that we can see with box and whisker plots is the median, the range, and the interquartile range. We can only see those 3 things. Histograms, we really only can see the shape of the data. We only can see how it's formed, and we'll understand that a little bit better on Tuesday. Okay? So my favorite graph and the third and final graph that we're going to be learning about, and it's not going to take long, is a line plot. And you already know about a line plot. You started learning about line plots in 4th grade. You represented it with X's. Now today it could also be called a dot plot, and you will see it written as a line plot, which uses X's, and a dot plot is going to use a what? A dot. Okay, you get to write it how you want it. So you need to choose in your brain right now in a little bit once we start graphing if you want to draw an X or if you want to draw a dot. I'm going to draw a dot because it's just easier for me. Okay, so a line plot or a dot plot is going to be used on a number line, just like a box and whisker plot. And we can see the frequency of each value. We can see everything. We can see mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range. We can see everything. But we have to do some work for it, okay? But a dot plot, a line plot is my favorite data graph because I can literally see everything about it. So one tool to help display data is a line plot. It also is called a dot plot. And we are going to use a number line to show the number of times each value in the data set occurs. And the line plots show the spread and the center. And what that is saying when it says spread and center is that means you can see everything. You can see the range, interquartile range. That's why they said spread. They said center because you can see the mean, you can see the mode, you can see the median. That's why they said center. So remember, when making the number line, you have to be consistent with your intervals. And I'll explain that in just a second once we get to the bottom. Okay? And this one is a see you later. We're going to talk about it when we get down to 7. Get it? Got it? So again, we're going to make a number line. Well, guess what they already drew for us at the bottom? A number line. And I know you can't see it here. There you go. And then the second step is we're going to label them on the number line with a dot or an X. So a dot or an X. So let's get after it. I'm looking at my table How many zeros do I see?
2.
I'm using a dot. You can use an X like they did up above. And I'm going to mark them out because I've used it. How many ones do I see?
2.
Now, what I'm doing here, I'm making sure my dot or my X is in the same interval. They're straight across from each other. You see how they're in perfect rows? I'm not saying columns. I'm saying they're perfect rows. Okay? Looking at number 2, how many of them do I have?
3.
3. So here I go. See how I'm trying to make sure they're in perfect rows? Now, is it going to be perfect? No, I'm trying. This is math class, not what?
Art class.
Okay.
Try your best.
Yep. And then 3, there is 3 of them. And do I have any 4s?
1.
Any 5s?
No, ma'am.
6s?
1.
7s?
No, ma'am.
8.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So that is a dot plot. What this is saying is we have, and I'm coming to the very bottom of the paper. Come to the very bottom of the paper. I have a 0, a 1, and a 1, a 2, 2, 2, a 3, 3, and 3, a 4, and a 6. So you can see all the data, and it's already put least to greatest. Now here's that see you later. You've heard of the word peak with a mountain. My peak are my highest points on this mountain. My peak is 2 and 3. That is also your mode. My gap is when there is not a number and it's separated by dots. There is one gap. It's one number that has a gap, that has nothing there. 5. Now, some of you said 7 and 8. There's nothing on this side to make it a gap. It's like a ledge. Okay? So, going off that ledge. Okay? So, now, cluster is a group together. It's got to be more than one. A cluster is a group together. It groups together from 0 to 4. It groups together from 0 to 4. It groups together from 0 to what?
4.
And do y'all see how it groups together from 0 to 4? 6 is not a cluster because it's not a group. 6 is called an outlier. 6 is called an outlier. And again, it's out there all by itself being an outlaw. That's just my way I try to get y'all to remember some silly things. So we're bumping over to number 3, and that's our last problem for today. And today's homework is to study your study guide. That is it. Okay? So when you come back from lunch, you are going to be answering the questions on number 3. Okay? Don't forget that you might want to think about that. Remember, all those X's represent a person. They represent a number that person said. Get it? Got it? Okay. Everybody say bye.
Bye.